Hello, and welcome to another Dead Pixel. I'm your host today, Joe, and with me, the man who tries to free his stellar blade in front of everyone in public, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Look, brandishing something like that is I didn't realize that it was that big of a deal, but people freak out when they see your stellar blade. Um and now I know. Now I know. I have to go to re-education. I have to be re-educated starting tomorrow, going through next Thursday, so I'll be back in time for the next cast, but yeah, you know, uh it's a learning process. Everybody makes mistakes, and just gonna come back stronger. And I just like to apologize to everybody that was offended by that.
Just be
And
careful
yeah,
not to relapse during the May 4th celebration. Everyone pulling out lightsabers. I know it gets you excited, so just be a little
it is
careful.
tomorrow, isn't it? May the fourth be with you. That's when this pod will hopefully go up.
All right. Well, we're another Dead Pixel. Usually a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, and a little bit of everything in between. As you can see, we're already going off the rails, but some things just have to be done. And
Forgot. I gotta add something to the docket. Go ahead.
yeah, Nick is still working via remote van down by the river. He has a nicer backdrop now, a little more friendly looking. And unfortunately, that means I'm doing the heavy lifting for the recording instead of Nick having all the nice fancy gadgets and everything like that. So if it sounds a little bit worse for wear, Nick's missing his good microphone. We're missing a good recorder. So yeah, sorry guys in advance. But on that note, here we go. Uh, Normally we got Nick to do the news. We've been both super busy, but here's some fun stuff we were able to pull out. Nothing too relevant, I guess. But one of which is way back in the days of COVID, Razer decided to try to dip their hand into scheming about getting some money from all the people freaking out about masks. And so it turns out that the FTC is going to fine Razer for every cent made for selling bogus N95 masks, the RGB ones that they came out with. They're like, hey, let's make these cool RGB ones that have little canisters on the side. They have a little glass window so they can see your lips move because that's something we all want. And yeah, they're
I remember when those came out, when those were being advertised. Like, this is so stupid. And it's a cash grab. I mean, I respect the game, but but yeah, just I thought that they would at least be real. They'd at least be like actual N95, grade. But that just shows how stupid I am. Because of course they're a video game or a computer peripheral company. They probably I just didn't think it'd be that hard to get a hold of that stuff, but it's whatever. I hope. I've had a couple Razer products. I have the really long Chroma matte mouse pad that's actually too long for the desk that I have by like a centimeter, maybe 2 centimeters. And that's cool. And I've had a couple of their mouses and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. They probably deserve this one.
I like their wireless mouse. I have the Basilisk mouse. The keyboard that I got because I had was doing stuff on the TV, so I had away from my computer. So the keyboard I got, unfortunately, is junk. It likes to double actuate a lot of keys, and the only saving grace I got to do is I saw someone mod their keyboard. And they took it all apart, and then they had to desolder all the keys, and then they were able to. They took the time to solder in hot swappables, and I'm like, you know what? That's the only way I can salvage this keyboard. Um, and it's a shame because it's a really nice keyboard when it worked, but it only worked for a little bit, and yeah, I was very disappointed. And of course, it happened. I swapped it out with a replacement at the store. It was still under warranty, at the time, and then the second one happened and it worked just fine until the warranty ended, and then it didn't. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm done with at least Razer wireless keyboards. Yeah, serves me right, I guess. But their mouse still works. So yeah,
Yeah, they good stuff, but yeah, they kind of deserve that. I mean, that was probably a little bit
that
beyond the pale
that was
in
peak
terms of the
pandemic.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, what do you got? I mean, like, what are you guys doing? I mean, you have. I mean, it's kind of a crisis. People are literally dying. Um, don't fool around with that. Don't fool around with that. It's just silly.
Yeah, it's like I didn't Dyson just came out with something stupid like that too. They came out with a headphone and a air purifier or some junk like that too, but it's like a fan that it doesn't touch the mouth, and it's a stupid peripheral. But yeah, Razer, king of RGB. Unfortunately, not much of foresight there. So it'll be fun to see how that kind of eventually plays out or like comes out in the end. I don't think anyone really bought that too much, but who knows? There might have been a market somewhere where that was hot stuff. But yeah, all right. So we got here. Little downer. Take Two closed the Seattle studio, and what I saw was like this was going to be mostly the guys who make Kerbal. I think it was like Kepler Studios, and yeah, that's you know, it's sad. Like 70 people lost their jobs. You know, this is just an ongoing trend. Uh, world situation the way it is. People say there's no. Some people like to argue that there's no recession and all the jobs are fine. Uh, these numbers and stuff like that beg to differ. So, yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Um, I feel like, I mean, because Kerbal Space Program was a critical darling, but it didn't really sell very well. Is that right? Do I remember that correctly?
so yeah, this was
Anyway,
they were. I remember it just being it had been out for a while, and then out of nowhere, I felt like it hit critical mass for Kerbal, the first Kerbal Space Program. Like just a lot of different outlets. People are doing their own like Zero to Space, like series of episodes, and it just seemed to be like yeah, it might have been a critical darling. I thought it did really well, but I mean, it did well enough for them to want to make a sequel, and I mean, they were the publisher. They were part of Private Division, um, so I know I believe they're the ones who did the uh shoot. I can't remember what else they made right now. Like they're part of Private Division made the one first the third person shooter, right? Survival game. The Division was that the same team? I
I
can't
don't know.
remember. Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, it just Take Two like it sucks that they had to let a group go that a lot of people were looking forward. Like they said they're going to still support uh the Kerbal Space Program too, but to the best of my knowledge, there wasn't any real plans for future updates, and it's probably just going to be a skeleton crew then it seems. So you know, hopefully they'll be able to just like all these other times, hopefully they'll be able to bounce back and find work elsewhere. You know, it's Seattle, so there's other theoretically there's a lot of other opportunity in the neighborhood. But yeah,
Yeah, there should be quite a bit of opportunity around there. But yeah, um, it's just part for the course right now in games. No job is safe
yeah.
until the economy does something different, and even then,
Okay, my bad. Yeah, I was completely talking about my butt when I mentioned the division. It was but they did do the Ollie Ollie World and Roller Drome, and Roller Drome was kind of fun. That was most definitely. I wouldn't have played it unfortunately if it wasn't for Game Pass at the time, and it just had gone to PlayStation Plus not that long ago as well, I believe.
okay.
So, uh, it's a fun game if you ever get a chance to give it a shot. But I didn't hear a lot of word about that through mouth. It was a very unique looking game, very stylized, and yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully the people will come out the other side all right. But it's never a good time to lose your job. That's for sure.
No, no, it never is. But anyway,
All right, and alluding to this earlier with Nick freeing his Stellar Blade, there has been a huge petition about to free Stellar Blade from the censorship because apparently a lot of people are very angry about putting more clothes on, uh, you know, Eve, the main
okay.
heroine from Stellar Blade. Uh, so for those who don't know, Stellar Blade being the new game coming out from Shift Up Studios from Korea on the PlayStation, they uh, this game has a main female character lead, and she in the trailers they showed she has a bunch of outfits you can choose from. Well, apparently on the day one patch, they had censored some of the outfits, putting just a little extra fabric here and there, covering up some cleavage, covering up some thighs, and a lot of gamers were very upset about that. Uh, Mostly because like an additional adding fuel to the fire was the fact that shortly beforehand there was a statement saying that they weren't going to censor the game. Now there wasn't really a lot of context for exactly what they meant by that. If it was language, blood, gore, or in this case, character models. So, but a lot of people are just saying this is not what you promised, and there was a petition put up. People were asking for refunds from Sony. Sony was actually allegedly issuing refunds for false advertisement, and yeah, it's kind of crazy because this game, Stellar Blade, is actually a really solid game. Has been a lot of decent reviews. Been very impressive for Shift Up's first foray into this gaming space. Because before that, they were most noted for a gotcha cell phone game, and yeah, a lot of people are really impressed with how well this plays. Um, and this is kind of like egg on their face for no reason at all, I guess. Now, a lot of people are speculating that it's Sony's fault for trying to cover this up and trying to make it more not as risque. And the whole internet's just been going kind of crazy about it. I mean,
Well,
the game,
I think that's
yeah,
probably a pretty good theory because because I mean, video game studios will always make the same mistakes over and over and over again with advertising and lying in advertisements, even though different games made by Peter Molyneux uh, um, or No Man's Sky, you know, there's plenty to learn from that, and they're just going to keep making the same mistakes as those. But it should be a little harder nowadays. The Shift Up did say they're not gonna censor it pretty specifically, and then it comes out and it's censored. And Sony is issuing refunds pretty much immediately. So the right like the writing on the wall there tells me that it is from Sony. That seems like a really good theory because if it wasn't from Sony, if it was from Shift Up, then whenever people started to try to get refunds for that, Sony would be more inclined to be like, "Hang on, no, what? Why?" But since Sony, who is notorious for refusing refunds, is very amenable at this point, it sounds like they it just the you know it the clues seem to point to they saw the game, you know, about to come out, and they were like, "Yeah, we really got to reel this in for whatever reason. So we're going to censor it. People are going to ask for refunds. So we're going to go ahead and put out that you can get a refund for that. So we're just going to deal with it that way." because usually the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing when it comes to developer and and publisher, or in this case shift up to Sony. So that sounds plausible. It sounds reasonable. But as to what they actually censored, the only thing that I thought they were talking about was the violence. Because as I mentioned to you before the podcast, that there's that news article about I think the guy from Dead Space, one of the producers from Dead Space or something, was like, "Hey, you guys are not censoring Stellar Blade for gore, whereas you censored our game for the same gore." And so he was complaining about that. So I was like, okay, maybe that's what they're talking about. But I mean, the outfits are. You and I both played a little bit. Obviously, haven't gotten too far into the fashion aspect of it yet because we're just not that far in. But from what I've seen from screenshots and stuff, it doesn't seem too wild or anything like that. I mean, it's already an M-rated game. Um, I just don't really understand what what we're really doing here. That's causing the need to censor. Like what's going on?
Well, I mean, a game like this is always going to have receive a lot of heat. I mean, one of the big things that happened during this time too, in the last little bit, was of course the whole IGN France. Um, they came
Oh
out
yeah,
ridiculing this game. I don't have the article in front of me, unfortunately, so I can't read it out. But it's along the lines of, uh, saying like other games had better characters, like Bayonetta's better character, or like they reference 2B as being like kind of like a better choice. And then they say like this is just pretty much you know a fan service. It's like I think something along the lines of a like a character for like a person who's never seen a woman before, something along those lines. And like really like granted it's the face and the most part the body is mocapped by an actual Korean woman. She so she does look similar, but granted, I talked about this beforehand. Unfortunately, having lived in Korea, uh, and seen as much plastic surgery ads there are, it's very common to get plastic surgery. At least it used to be extremely popular to the point where I forget now when I was living there back in like 2013. Around that time, they did the Miss Korean pageant, and someone overlaid all the contestants, and they looked very similar to each other. Uh, and it was common at back at that time. I mean, it was starting to go downhill, but like they were starting to stop it as much. But it wasn't surprising at all to like, oh, you graduated high school, you turned 18 or something like that. Here, let me give you a present from the parents to the child. Let's fix your nose, or let's get your cheeks done or something. It's like cosmetic
yeah.
surgery was very popular.
It's really common in Korea to have work done
So I
early
mean,
and often.
they were
So yeah, I mean, like
they
she's
were
based
starting to
on a
change that.
real,
I
she's
mean, but
based
it's
on a real woman who is also very, augmented, which that's her choice. So it's a dumb article. I mean, I haven't read it, so I guess I shouldn't
they've
say
since
that. But
backpedaled.
from what
They've sent a
you're telling me, it sounds like a dumb article because they're attacking this game because they know it's popular. They know it's going to sell well. They know it's already selling well or whatever. The demo was doing pretty well from what I remember, but they're attacking this game because it's popular and it looks like that. They don't attack games like Hyper Neptunia, In Birth, Rebirth 3, or any or like the Atelier games or anything else that's like etchy at all because like it's fits in a small niche that very few people buy, and so there's not really a good soapbox to stand on to like rail against it. Um, so it's just stupid. It's like this is a video game.
people have
There's
made the
like
same arguments for the fame. For its people have made arguments for every female character that was glorified for their sexuality. From Lara Croft, Bayonetta, 2B. Like, thing is, a lot of people gave Nier Automata like a lot of flack for that character, and but then of course if you actually played the game, you find out there's actually a really good story behind it, and there's a lot more to it. But once again, most people never made it that far, or they just saw trailers, ads, and things, and they made their judgment based off that. And yes, there is, um, well, sex sells. That's just point blank. I mean, so it's there's argument to be had about um, the objectifying or glorifying, like the women, or to
Just
try to
just ask Dead
target.
or Alive, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, and targeting targeting the male demographic. My what I figured is they should do with this game is they can go ahead and censor it. What make it so it's have your unlockable DLC costumes. Do something like was it the Saboteur for Xbox 360? If you had pre-ordered that game, I remember you got a code to have uh like topless mode for like the burlesque house.
Yeah.
That was like, in the game. I'm like, I actually thought like that would have been a smart way to do if you wanted to try to push the envelope on games. Just make it so it's a aftermarket DLC, because then you have to have a credit card in theory to be able to purchase those things, and that's your way of getting around. Oh, the kids, like somehow a minor gets a hold of something like that. But when it comes to this, I mean, as far as character quality goes, who knows? Haven't gotten that far in the game yet. Um, but the character is what the character is. I mean, a lot of
Well,
people are just really
I mean,
upset about taking away their fan service.
I mean, Bayonetta is like really not any different. I mean, you could say, oh, it's better quality, this or that, but the point of Bayonetta is the action and the sex appeal. Nier is pretty like Nier Automata is pretty much there too. The first Nier had Kaine, um, which
She
she
ran around
is.
the entire thing in a negligee for the most part, and constantly got made fun of by another character, being like, "You haven't had time to change your clothes
Hussy.
yet," you know?
Yeah, he just called it like Weiss just calls her Hussy the whole time,
Yep.
which is hilarious. Man, what a good voice acting team they had there. But yeah, it's like this person is just a moron. Like they're the reason that they're not mad about Nier Automata, or rather 2B and Bayonetta, is because they grew up with them, or they're like old now. They're like classic now. In 10 years, 15 years, there's going to be another game like Stellar Blade, like Nier Automata, like Bayonetta, that's going to come out, and it's going to have a risque girl action character, and somebody in France is going to write an article, and it's going to say the same thing that this article is saying, but it's going to say that Bayonetta was this and 2B was that, and Eve from Stellar Blade was this, and they're all good, and this new one is the one that's bad. And it's just a never ending cycle that repeats, because the exact same things were said about 2B and Bayonetta. It's just stupid. And going back to Lara Croft, even further back, it's a stupid cycle.
Yeah. So in the the immediate aftermath was IGN, like, kind of just threw IGN France under the bus, and they're like, IGN America was
Gosh.
like, they're like, yeah, they're a different entity. They're not exactly affiliated. Like, it was just funny how they quickly cut ties. But then IGN France did
Mhm.
apologize to Shift Up, in a tweet or whatever. So there was an apology there. Uh, but it's just, of course, games like
And
this will always get heat. That's how it is.
it's like, I mean, and it's not, I mean, it's just because the character is the main, kind of the main thing in this game, but uh throughout pretty much all of video game history, there's risque characters often in the background, often side characters. I mean, that's what quiet is in Metal Gear. Um, there's just there's like they're in like Dead or Alive. Mortal Kombat has its ones. League of Legends, they're everywhere. If you want to if you want to fight this battle, then starting with Stellar Blade is just way too far beyond what you're like going for. If you want to have the moral argument, you need to indict all of video games. Say this and this and this, and there are people who do that,
Well, that's
but
the
they
thing
don't
is
have IGN in front of their name usually.
they this is where I think is kind of like a powder keg waiting to happen. A lot of people are just looking for any excuse to um, raise their banner and fight against uh, anyone trying to make things sensible, I guess is the best way to put it, because like to go ahead and try to sign a petition to try to get refunds, I think it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I think both sides are ridiculous. So you didn't need to censor it, but at the same time, you don't need to be making this like your hill to die on. But I think a lot of people are getting fed up with or they are looking for an excuse to yell out to the world because a lot of people are trying to blame like companies like what Sweet Baby Inc. For trying to make things more diverse in games and trying to they blame they tried blaming them for everything lately. I feel like some of it might be a little justified, but I think a lot of it's just gamer outrage being misdirected. So
Yeah,
like why does Spider-Man have so much to do with Miles Morales, or why does it have to be all these other characters in Spider-Man, or why is the new Alan Wake 2, why does Saga have to be an African American, and like all these people are blaming like Sweet Baby Inc. for that. I'm like, like it's there's nothing wrong with having a diverse cast. There's nothing wrong with having someone be like say, hey, maybe you should think about this in a different light. Um, but so many people are looking, they're making the wrong argument, and it's not so much like it's just because it's not your status quo, like doesn't mean you need to go out and rage against someone else. And in this case, a company like Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't have anything to do with this. But like, there's a lot of images going like, well, good. Like if they had been into it, then Eve would be looking like a completely different character. I'm like, dude, stop trying to make this your banner. It's just it's okay to have diversity. It's okay to have moral center, but it's also okay to have certain games be targeted as certain extremes. Now, granted, if it's I think a game shouldn't be leading to hate and violence amongst people. Like you shouldn't have like a neo-Nazi centered game where like that's your goal is to be an evil piece of crap. That's you don't need that, but it's okay to have you know certain games be sexualized, like, or even people were upset about even back in Final Fantasy 15 for having a bunch of guys going on a road trip. They're like there isn't anything wrong with that. Um, but people were getting up in arms about that back in the day. I'm like, well, when Final Fantasy
no
10-2
female
had
characters.
females, no one was yelling about that.
Hmm. That's interesting. You're right. Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this game right now, apparently. The moral issue and then the well they are so they're and they are censoring someone is censoring the game to some point and causing refunds. So it's I really just wish that there had not been any change in what they were planning to do uh, for whatever reason that they are. It just seems cowardly to make to censor stuff, make the game how you want to make it, and let that be that. And if it is Sony that's censoring this stuff or causing it to be censored, which I suspect that it might be, um, then like it's just it's just it's just that they would have had to know this game was coming. They would have had to been able to talk to the studio and say, hey, you guys got to change some stuff, and let people know beforehand. It's just,
It's
it's irritating because as we're gonna talk about in a minute, it's a good game. I don't know, maybe the controversy is actually gonna make it sell more. Uh, the guys in the kind of the old adage, no such thing as bad publicity. Um, but yeah. Anyway,
Well,
it's
here's the thing though. It's I mean, having like PlayStation has done this for a very long time. They've gone ahead and from games from like from before Vita and everything else. What they would do is if there's a JRPG or some sort of game like that, Japanese game with gotcha characters. It's this isn't the first time. It won't be the last time they've censored characters. What they've um, a lot of gamers had to do, whether it be like from a Nintendo property or from like a Sony property. You would The games would come out to the U.S. and if a character design was a little too risque, they would go ahead and change their design a little bit, and but the rest of the world would get the quote unquote uncensored version. And if you wanted to get an English copy of that, you would actually order from their international version of a game, and usually it'd be like a Malaysian or Southeast Asian copy because they generally have like Japanese native language and it'd have English as well, and so therefore you could just select English language option, and you'd get so that's not uncommon. It's not the first. Like I said, it's been happening for a very long time, and that's why when I actually saw that last week we talked about it, I'm like, oh hey, it looks like they're coming. They're saying it's going to be uncensored. That's cool. Um, you know, I can like I said, it wasn't. I just thought it was neat that they're actually going ahead and doing that for a change. Uh, but what happens is now, all said and done, after this last week of hoopla, uh, they've there's been recently a tweet and from Shift Up saying, "Thanks to all our Stellar Blade fans for your passion and feedback. Stay tuned for updates." So in theory, they might be change. They might be changing it back. Um, who knows? Uh,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think maybe they don't do like there's probably a reason why they don't release it separately in different regions. But maybe they don't want to hear about complaints. Maybe nowadays things are just more connected to where it's like, well, we could do it in this region and that region, but it would be online, or people would use VPNs or whatever, and it really wouldn't matter. So
or just do
there's
like you
probably
did, buy the game, physical edition. Don't just play it offline. Don't patch it. There you go. And that's how Nick plays the game.
yeah, that's what I should have done. I actually did let it patch because I mean we buy a disc now and it's pretty much just a serial number that lets you download the game. So there's not really anything that you're getting across, there, but it's silly. I hope that I would like to see this game's sales. Hope they announce how well it's doing or it's done. I know the demo was pretty well regarded, so I do hope this game does well, despite all of the controversies.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It looks like you know, according to a Reddit post, it was like and like a couple other articles saying it reached number one in physical sales charts in the UK. So that's good for them. Like I said,
That's
it's
pretty
a
good.
uh the best part about this game, honestly, is the fact that it came out day one and it wasn't buggy as hell. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where they really deserve a lot of credit. They're the graphical settings, like they're pushing the correct frames. There's not a lot of frame dips and no frame time pacing issues. It's a solid game from the start. There's not
So,
like
do you want to switch over to talking about
yep,
the game itself?
yep. And so as you can tell, this is the game that we've both been playing this last week. So yeah. How's your experience been? Did you get a chance to play the demo at all prior or no?
I had not played the demo prior to starting this. I kind of went into this not blind, but kind of trying not to know too much more about it after a certain point. Um, and yeah, it's it's a good game. It so far. So we're both. How many hours would you say in? 2 hours, 3 hours?
I'm a little farther because I suck at the game, and I grinded a little bit trying to understand how the gameplay mechanic. Like, I'm bad at parrying. I've always that's in all these type of games. Parrying is my least favorite thing to do. I will choose dodge 95% of the time over parrying if I
Um,
can. Um,
well,
yeah,
so we're up to
I'm
the
farther. I'm
chapter.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm probably like 4 to 5 hours in. Um, but like
We
I played a
just
lot.
completed a chapter called Crater, and then it takes you to more populated area. Not to get into spoilers or anything like that, but it takes you to a more populated area, and it seems like at this point is when the game is going to start to open up a little bit more. Early on, it's I don't know, like the early parts of the game are pretty narrow. There, it's kind of like a hallway RPG or action game kind of. And I was a little bit like, I don't really know how this game is really going to go, but it seems like it's going to start to open up now. The parrying, I did piddle around with trying to perfect parrying and dodging early, and I eventually kind of just had to move on after getting a little bit better at it. But there are I don't know what your skill tree is looking like, but on my skill tree, I just went for the stuff that made parrying and dodging easier, and that seems to have opened things up quite a bit in the combat. It's because I was like, man, this combat's actually really tough. Because I was dying, um, trying to play the game properly, as I saw it, and not just like hit them as much and then jump back and just badly block and stuff like that, trying to actually get perfect parries, actually get perfect dodges. And so I was dying a lot, but I did learn quite a bit from that. And so anyway, once I did upgrade those parts, it became easier to parry and to dodge without just getting blown away uh, quickly. So I mean those things have kind of opened up, and that's good. But and once that happened, I really started to get um, a better feel for the combat and appreciate the combat more. And be able to go like, okay, I can do this, perfect parry, block, uh, and then hit them again, and then there's some other moves where you can, whenever they do a unblockable attack, whenever an enemy does an unblockable attack, you can basically teleport behind them or just slide underneath them and then get an attack in, and that feels really good. But yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is the combat started to feel really good once I opened up some of that stuff, and I'm really appreciating it a lot. It's got nuance, um, and it's got it just feels good. Just feels good to get the attacks in, and the enemies are interesting. How have you felt about the combat so far?
Yeah, the combat's really solid. It's the most Souls game that I've ever decided to commit to, I guess, is the best way for me to put it. I mean, I've played
Does
other
feel
games that were Souls like. Like I would honestly say if anyone's afraid to play a Souls game, I'd recommend playing that Jedi Survivors game. That came out like a handful of years ago. It's like the most like easy entry to a Souls like. You got the bonfire equivalent. All your enemies respawn afterwards. That kind of thing. You got the regenerating like health flask, as it were. So, yeah, this game, I only died a handful of times. I like 6 times is what I remember, and three of those, so half those deaths were at the final boss of that tutorial set. I'm gonna call it the tutorial section. What you mentioned, the crater, um, before you get to the first hub area, um,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
because for me it was, and I did a lot of running back and forth. Plus, I also this game has a lot of collectibles or a lot of hidden things, so there's a lot of scalability. Like you look around and you can like kind of go off to the side and collect a little knickknack here and there for upgrades that I have no idea what they're exactly for, but I'm like, there's something for me to collect. So you better believe I'm going to try to get it. And there seems to be a few things that like, nope, you are not able to get this yet. You will have to come back. But I ran a lot of circuits. Like I'd go to a camp, uh, and then I'd go to find another camp, and then I'd run back and forth between the two camps, fighting certain enemies, trying to get a feel for how certain enemies attack. And I was actually able to get through most of the enemies, the elite nativas. I didn't actually die on any of those. I came close a few times, but I was actually pretty satisfied with the fact that I could get through them without dying. It
Hmm.
was I usually died on some weird grunt in the middle, just because my timing was off, and then I just got chain wrecked, and I'm like, oh wow, that was surprisingly fast actually. A couple bad decisions on my part, and it devastated me. But I only actually died 3 times in the level, and then like the other 3 times were at the final boss on my fourth attempt. I was actually able to defeat the Alpha Nativa. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Though that was the first time I got to play with the items like grenades and such. So I used those. Uh,
You died how many times on the Alpha Natiba?
3.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that was it was frustrating because like the first time I just got just absolutely crushed. Each time I got a little bit better. But the thing is, I wasn't used to using. I realized I'm like I'm gonna use my items, and I'm really bad at using the items. Actually, I wasn't sure about the area of effect, so I'd like throw a shot grenade, and he would jump back too fast, so I would just waste it. I'm like, yeah, like
The shot
I
grenades I think are for minions basically.
for shields, it helps take down the shield. So
Or I
that
guess the concussion grenades or whatever
yeah.
the ones that are for physical, they seem to just be for when you're kind of swarmed by enemies to throw one down and but they don't seem to be for higher levels or bosses. But
What it does is it interrupts them and it knocks them to the ground, or stuns them for just a moment, giving you a little bit breathing room, giving you enough time to do a chain attack, to like hit a quick combo, and so that's
yeah.
kind of where that comes into play. Or if you need to buy yourself that little extra time to heal, so I actually burned through my basic flasks. I forget what they call them in this game, um, and then I ended up having to use one of uh the potions that like heal you over time. But I only had to use one of those at the end. But yeah, it was a little bit more item heavy than I normally would. But just some of the timing for that big guy was, uh, I felt like I was hitting it right, but like I was just something was not clicking right away. But like I said, on my fourth try, I was able to do it. The other enemies, though, like I said, it's eventually certain ones got to the point where I got a pretty good rhythm. But I also am pretty confident that I collected everything along the way. I got like, there was only one item that uh, took me a little bit, and I felt really clever when I got it. So, but I also got
Okay.
it by accident. Like I knew there was an item hidden behind a wall, and I was able to take it out with a crane. And I'm like, but it was kind of an accident because I was trying to get to. I'm like, there might be a door there, and I just bumped it, and just the wall fell down. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. And then I didn't realize those walls were breakable. And I broke so there's one on each side. So I broke the one and then I was like, "Oh, I wonder if the other one does." And I broke that one. So I was able to get both of those items. I'm sure I've missed stuff. Um, but there's a fast travel backward if you need to. So I figured I can probably go back and do stuff, but I should probably go back and check some areas. I don't know though. There's a lot of this stuff that I might leave for New Game Plus, or I just never fucking do it. Maybe I don't know, but but yeah, it's um, so okay. So it's got there's I kind of lost my train of thought. Uh, the but you're doing a pretty good job getting all the items you think. So you
Yeah,
haven't really had to
I'm
do
pretty
anything.
confident that I got everything I could. Uh, and certain like there's an area that's submerged underwater. I'm like, you have to like there's no way you can get that right now. Like you'll have
That's
to
what
come
it is.
back there for something else. They're either a side mission or like a campaign thing. I have no idea yet, but I'm like that's I searched it like that's another reason why I took longer to get to the same spot because I searched every nook and cranny. Like I'm fairly confident. I scanned the crap out of everything, constantly spamming that scan button. So when you get to upgrade your drone, I just pumped it straight into the searching function to help me find things
Oh, it's
easier.
smart. Yeah, because I thought the scanning was only for invisible enemies. And I was like, well, this is kind of not really useful much. That's one of my criticisms. I'm sure there's a reason why they did it that way, but like using like that center button to me should be something that you're going to use all the time. Uh, like I think God of War does it best, at least in God of War 2, where you're hitting that button all the time to bring up your most important menu type things. Um, and to use it for just a scan button seems sort of silly to me, but I'm sure it'll be
It's
made more manifest.
so actually, scan. That's actually a great button to use for scanning instead of crushing your R3. Because like I said, you scan all the time. It's the Batman Detective Vision. I mean,
It wouldn't
ever
have to
since
be R3, but it wouldn't have to be R3. But I was just like, for what the scanning in general, good. But for what I thought was a scan that was only for invisible enemies that only come around sometimes, I was like, why are we going to dedicate a button that important to a thing that is that rare? But I just didn't understand yet that I guess that there's a lot of hidden items that I wasn't seeing on the scans. I just wasn't scanning at the right time. So maybe I'll go back and use that more and make a different judgment on it.
also they mapped a bunch of other stuff to that center button. Swipe up for your other missions you could do. Swipe to the side to see the map. So that I mean they utilize the actual touch feature that a lot of games don't necessarily. A lot of times they might only map half the side to one, and the other half to the other. That's what they used to do on the PS4 controller. Um, so I mean I think they
Yeah.
utilize it pretty well, and I think honestly, I mean, I wouldn't. I would like. There's not a button. There's no other button you would be able to do to replace that. To do a quick scan, and that way it's a simple hit because you wouldn't use any of the thumbstick buttons. The face buttons are all mapped to combat. The shoulder buttons are all dedicated. So like, there's not really much you can do. I mean, without making it like a hold this to do that, and then which just makes it more complicated. So I think actually having the scan centered, pushed down is the right move. I just wish, I mean, once again, they make you upgrade it, but I just want the scan to be more permanent and faster reacting. But those are upgrades that you get later
Yeah,
on.
because you can scan and then you have to wait a second to be able to scan again or something like that. It's not that long, but it's just sort of like irritating to have to not be able to spam it. I guess, but that's just like minor stuff, and I need to go back and try it again and probably reassess my opinion on that. But I mean, as far as like uh we've already said the combat is good, and that's sort of the main thing with this game. 'Cause primarily is the combat. Is the gameplay, gameplay is king. Is the combat, the gameplay fun? And I think that it is very fun. The core of it is very fun and very well put together. Um, it's like all of or a lot of stuff surrounding the less important parts of the game, I guess, that I feel like that this studio is making a lot of rookie mistakes, and I know that they also did a gotcha game, a mobile game or whatever, for a while. Um, so it's not like they're a brand new studio, but this is their first foray into say call it like a big boy game or a
It's a double
uh
A. I mean, it's what which it fits that niche category that used to be double A games, which don't exist that much anymore. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's almost triple A. There's a few things that for polish wise that doesn't quite make the standards of like a platinum or like Square Enix or anything like that. But it does so many things right. But I'm curious, what are some of the other mistakes or other issues that you're having with it?
Well, like the the skill tree, um, the things you get in the skill tree are good. The way the skill tree is formatted, um, is also fine. It doesn't have much pizzazz, doesn't have much um, pop to it. It feels like somebody who was used to making mobile games and had a small screen to work with and didn't want to make things too busy. It seemed like they like that kind of person is who designed the skill tree. It's it's sort of just kind of boring. Um, I think that in a second iteration, that's really what I want to see from these guys is Stellar Blade 2. Because I want to see them look at the game in its totality and kind of sleep on it a bit and come back and go, okay, we really had more leeway here. We actually had more room on the screen. We had more this, we had more that we could work with. Um, because I think that that's what they're going to realize is there's a lot of things about the game that just that they just feel sort of they just feel sort of uh, like cramped, like they're like afraid. It's not. It's like the person making it felt cramped rather than like Persona 5, where a lot of the menus and stuff are fun to like pop up and look at. They're doing all kinds of like stuff to you. I feel like this game could benefit with a little bit more design in that category. And that's one thing. I'm gonna look at my notes, but
All
that's just
right,
one thing
I'm
that
gonna
came up to
argue
me.
on this one actually. I think it's just fine. I think in fact they actually do quite a few things right with the skill tree. Um, all right, so I'm gonna as far as the blandness of how it looks, um, I'm gonna go ahead and state Elden Ring skill tree, God of War, Starfield. All those are equal to, if not worse, than the way this skill tree is set up. Uh, because the at least one of the things they do so right with this is they actually have the in-game option when you go to select a skill to go ahead and practice said skill right there. You can just go ahead and practice. That's amazing to give you that option right away. Um,
A good fighting game kind of pull. Like, hey, fighting games do that. Let's go ahead and pull that in. This is basically, in a lot of ways, a fighting game.
so
It is very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, a game like the descriptions are adequate enough, but since you actually get to practice said move, that makes a huge difference because a game like Starfield, an RPG that should you think would have a really good setup, uh, it's not much better. Instead, the skills have little badge icons, but the descriptions are kind of jank. When you have something like God of War is the most boring thing there is. It does have good visuals though. Like it shows just like Stellar Blade, they show you in the icon like kind of what the skill does, and with the description, and so that little video is nice to have. So they both have that, but it's God of War is just a couple skills that go straight down. That is all. I mean, but that's also the same as Borderlands or any of those. Like, so it's nothing.
I
It's all
guess
within the realm of normal.
I'll clarify my previous statements. It's not that the skill tree is bad. It's not bad. It's adequate. It's fine. It just seems like a place that I would put a little bit more pizzazz in a second iteration. I might I might make certain things bigger and certain things smaller, and I'll maybe add some color in there because right now, um, it's multiple screens of a circle divided into three, and then circles in that, and it's like, okay, it's very clear, and that's good, but it's not like that, like aspect of the game is not um as pretty as it could be. It's not like it's just not as pretty as it could be. I just feel like you could make it better, but that's fine. Like that's kind of like the whole thing about this game is that it is an excellent rookie game from the studio. It's an excellent first outing from the studio. Um, and you expect these guys to make the kinds of mistakes that are in the game. A lot of the pop in, or maybe things are just aren't fit and finish uh, the way that you would really want them to be. But that's why you have to look at, okay, this is their first game, and what are we really, what are we like what are we taking away from this that is good and moving on with, like I said before, the combat and stuff like that is really stellar. So
But
so
bump.
that's fine. It's just like nitpicking up other little things
Yeah, like I
that
said,
I'm kind of seeing in
it
this
could be
game.
more colorful, but as far as like if you just look at God of War, it's no different. And in fact, I think it's better than God of War just for the fact that you can actually execute, practice said move in their own arena. The But as far as actually leveling up, I find it quite easy to level up in this game. It's kind of crazy how I would expect this game to like ramp up the XP that you'd need to get your next point. But the fact is, from the very beginning, they let you go ahead and remap all your skills if you want. You can just pay a little bit into it, and that's what another thing is they do right. Is a lot of other games, you purchase your stuff, you're set in stone. I mean, that is now your lifestyle until you can get enough experience points to or skill points to correct your mistake. But this one they'll let you do it. I went ahead and I haven't made I haven't felt like I made any improper choices yet. Like I didn't feel like I chose something that really like I think the only thing I might have quote unquote screwed up on is I dumped some points into a secondary parry like retaliation skill. It's like you parry and then you can like the first part one is you hold triangle, then you can you'll after you parry you'll map up and like attack them. I'm like great, you teleport real quick, and then there's a second version of that where I was like okay cool this will in my brain, the way I looked at it, I'm like, okay, this is a part two of a combo chain. I'm like, no, it just replaces instead of holding square, you hold like triangle now, and I'm like, oh, that I wasn't expecting. So that was the only time I'm like, well, I could use that point maybe in something else because I was satisfied with just the first tier of that. But outside of that, most things I felt were pretty fair. I've more or less didn't chose not to upgrade any of my beta skills, which are like the special attack skills. I just have the one in each section just so I have them available to me, but I haven't actually
Um,
upgraded those at all. Instead, I've gone strictly for um, the lightning skill or the rush skill, the hold triangle teleport to that said person, and then
that's really
I've
useful one, yeah.
and then you have a couple of you can chain attack and you can make those more powerful. So that's I did those. The first things I did was instantly though, like you mentioned before, I did the parry and the dodge um, timing windows. I made those bigger, and then I did they make you do the perfect dodge forward, and then they later on I chose to get the perfect dodge back. So which
Okay.
is, and
Yeah.
that that's kind of where my timing is. I'm like, all right, it takes me just a little bit, or sometimes I'll jump the gun because whenever I see like the blue flash to dodge forward, I'll knee jerk react to that circle because I'm used to, I'm used to other games where you see the flash from the enemy and that means you can counter them right away or do something. So I'll see the enemy flash, and instead of waiting for my weapon to correspond flash blue, and then teleport forward, I'll just see their blue flash and I'll go ahead and just spam, like I'll hit the dodge and I'm like, oh shoot, I jumped the gun on that because I was in mid combat like flow.
Uh,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's the biggest problem I have. I think is just timing that and timing the parries because sometimes I feel like I'm getting the perfect parry, but either I'm way too early or I'll just get in like not quite a stun lock, but I'm like I must be a fraction behind or something like that because I'm just there's something about it that I'm just not quite getting right. So
yeah. The parrying, I feel like I have to be early to not be late. Like I want to do it right as it hits, and I think they're a bit softer on it. They want you to do it quite a bit before it hits, and it seems weird to me. But
yeah,
I
it's
finally
somewhere
got
after like the moment he starts to swing, the enemy starts to swing. I'll either I'll hit it right when they start to move, which is too early, or I'll try to time it right as they're hitting me, and that's too late. So it's somewhere in between
yeah,
that I'm not like I haven't quite nailed it down. I'm getting it from time to time, but for example, I had a really hard time, especially when they do like a chain attack, like 3 hit combo. Um, I can usually get 2 out of the 3, but I can't. It's hard for me to get all 3 at once.
yeah,
So
yeah. I usually try to settle. If I get 2 out of 3, I'll just be like, I'm just gonna block on the third one. I'm just gonna do a normal block, and they're pretty nice about that. I um, I think that they make it so easy to, I don't say easy, but they make it pretty easy to refund your skills and redo them because if you couldn't, it'd be very easy for you to get stuck with a bad set of skills. I think not that you wouldn't have a way out of it, but it would be like not fun for several hours, maybe until you got enough points to get back up. But like, yeah, like you definitely want to expand your timing windows. And I also I didn't even get any extra abilities yet. I just increased how much beta energy I get and things like that. So like anything that's going to feed me more faster, I was like, I need to get all that because I felt like the beta energy was running out really quickly. I mean, I was like using 1 or 2 moves and it was gone. And so I was like, I need more of that. I needed that faster and more often and a bigger, pool of it. And then I'm going to start getting other moves, which I think has worked out pretty well so far.
yeah, so the beta moves essentially it's um in order to power up your beta, you that's the when the parries come into effect. Your perfect parries provide extra power for that. On your basics assault or the combat section, you can also do recharge 1 and 2 for just your basic attacks. Um, and for me, one of the things I was uh the other 2 skills. I forget. One was like a ranged. It's your L1 circle, and it does a cross slash kind of attack, and that's a ranged attack, which is nice to bait. And one of the actually the now that I think about it, the first skill I unlocked was actually the backstab. I think it's assault, because they give you the one they give you the one where you jump from above, and so you can kill them that way. But the first thing I did was I just got the backstab ability, and that paid for itself in dividends. Especially since um, I was running back and forth trying to discover new things in the map, and what I do is and then certain enemies I was having a hard time with, so I would go ahead and fight them. But then certain enemies, I was like, all right, well, how I was trying to get the backstab timing right, and like there's a library that you kind of run through real quick, or a little bookstore, and I
Mhm.
was like, it was like the first arm shielded enemy you really meet, giant big arm, and I was like, okay, well, if I time it right, I can stab him in the back, but it's kind of a little wonky. But also, if you run to the top of the bookshelf, you can run to the second ledge, and then you can just jump down on them. And then there's like certain things like that. I got to play around with it, and I really do like the combat in this a lot. I'm just maybe not the most graceful at it, but yeah, I think this game, uh, as far as actual voice acting goes, it's pretty good. It's a little weird with I got when you get Artemis. She does a couple anime poses, and I'm like, Tifa did the same thing in Final Fantasy like remake, where like they'll do the like hands together to your face, or they'll like do it like the Y from YMCA, like yay kind of like pose. I'm like, no one does that in real life, so it's really jarring to see. Um, it's listening to it's some of that stuff is
I
just
don't
like
think I've gotten Artemis yet. I got
she's
Lily join the party.
Lily Artemis, the second.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't get that other part of the name. Okay, yeah, she is that character, she's very tropey. I think that the that Eve Eve's voice actress um has a very nice voice um that is nice to listen to. I haven't really heard much in the way of acting from her yet. I think that the Adam guy, I I really don't like him. Uh, he's I don't know if he's being directed. I don't know if everyone in is being directed to be that way, but he sounds almost unprofessional. If you know what I mean by that, like he sounds almost like a guy off the street that is just reading lines. Um,
I feel okay. So, um,
I
speculation.
just
It's my hypothesis. I think he's not human. That's my guess. My guess is he's not human.
oh that
Uh,
that that okay. Well, maybe, but like he sounds so stilted, and really Eve isn't much better, but at least she actually is a robot. But like he's so stilted that last night I was playing a little bit more and I was like, I wonder if the English cast is just, they just couldn't spend a bunch on the English cast. I wonder if the Korean is better. So I switched over to the Korean, and I think the side characters all sound better than their equivalents. As far as I heard, I didn't play for very long with that, but I think all the side characters sound a little bit better, if not just equal. But Eve sounded a little bit too, I don't know, standard, Korean drama actress. Just too boilerplate. And I was like, yeah, I've already, but she doesn't really talk that much, so maybe that is the right move. But I switched it back over to English, so I might go back and forth a little bit more. But yeah, I was just kind of like, it's not bad. It's not like bad. Uh, and I didn't really even think about it at first, but last night I was like, man, I really don't like listening to this Adam guy talk. And that's what made me change. But it's not the end of the world.
I thought, oh yeah, and with all the uproar of stuff, like during the demo, the fact that the naked suit, you can just take off her outfit, and then she has the no armor variant. I'm like, you know what? All right, fine. What in order to
Interesting.
make, I'm like, you should have the equality here. You can change Adam's outfit. You can change, like, go ahead and give him the same treatment.
You can't
Just
you can't
yeah,
strip Adam down. But
nope.
Adam's a human. He's not a super weapon. So he's always wearing that jumpsuit. Same with Lily. She's always wearing that jumpsuit.
But she's no,
Um,
she's machine though. She's machine because
well,
she was in that
I
pod
stand
for
corrected.
2 years.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
just so she's probably batshit crazy. I mean, that's the kind of character that needs to come out of that
well,
pod.
she was
Um,
after she sees the she like you meet the town mayor person, Oracle, or uh it's not Oracle but it's
Oracle.
Oracle. Yeah,
Oracle. His name's
Oracle
Oracle.
the prophet, not Oracle the Oracle, because that would just be silly.
Very cool
Um,
looking character. And
uh,
then when his bodyguard spoke, I was like, "Who the hell is that?" And then I was like, "Did
you
I
mean
miss something?"
man?
Yeah,
With
man, yeah, I
um,
forgot his name was Man with
that
two
dude,
N's.
that dude is the
Oh,
most stereotypical cyberpunk character ever. Like
yeah,
he
that room is very cyberpunk. That room is very cyberpunk when you go in there, but
old
not to
man
give
with
away too many spoilers.
yeah,
But
that was like I said, that was a neat scene. But it's just At least I'm my hypothesis is Adam is like some sort of like, well, there's more to be done. Like I have more thoughts
Yeah,
behind it because
yeah.
there's a little bit of that.
Spoilers. Rip the headphones out now. But Adam is dropping hints that not all things are right with Adam's world. And he's trying to tell Eve some stuff, and we kind of keep getting interrupted. Also, Mother Sphere. Definitely nothing going wrong with Mother Sphere. That's totally normal and not bad at all in the
The
least.
worst orbital drop like and ever though. That opening scene is awesome, going from the title screen into the
It's
actual
pretty
thing.
cool.
But I'm like, but I was just like, those ships are dope. But your shield is only the tiny bit of the front. Like there's no shield around the side at all. Just like, and then they're gonna shoot us in a straight laser. Oh crap! They're missiles. They
We
got.
didn't have enough money to pay for 80% of the shields.
I'm like, you were
Yeah,
better
that's kind of
off
silly.
just launching
Yeah,
all the
video games,
pods
dude.
beforehand. They're like, we're not gonna launch any pods before. We're just gonna get our ships taken out in bulk. I mean,
It is a very Starship Troopers ass like landing there, where
and
it's like, we didn't know they could shoot like stuff from the ground. These are just lights, and then you're getting destroyed.
um
Yeah.
Eve's whole team like gets taken out by a drop ship. Like no one noticed the ship coming at them, and then the Nativa allegedly survived that the ship just dropping on it. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Uh
Yeah, the Alpha Natiba that
no, no, not the alpha. I'm just
takes.
talking about just the elite, the dude with the two
Okay.
punching
Well, anyway,
the
I was
yeah.
kind of changing subject. That Alpha Natiba that takes Taki at the beginning,
Hmm.
pretty freaking cool looking creature. I mean, they all have kind of that dark that kind of Dark Soulsian slash standard Japanese horror, Asian horror, I should say, aesthetic. But like that one in particular is very cool. I definitely appreciate that. So yeah, the other thing I was going to try to say earlier is, you know, action and combat are the main thing, but second to that, and a close second, is the aesthetics of the game, and those are delivered quite well. Censoring or not, it has a unique look to it. It looks pretty, and not just like that. Like Eve is a pretty lady. Um, Her character design is really cool. The suits that she wears, risque or not, are very cool. And then the world itself, I can tell that they're kind of using some smoke and mirrors to make things kind of look a little better. A lot of things are kind of just on the surface, but that's fine. It does look good in a lot of ways, and I'm appreciative of that. So that's another part where I'm like, these guys are doing this good with the combat and the aesthetics in their rookie outing, then Stellar Blade 2 with good sales behind the first one. Um, I mean, I hate to already be like be already barely a tenth of the way or whatever through this game, and looking forward to the second one that's not going to come out for literally 3 years at the earliest, if it ever comes out at all. But I just can't kind of get that out of my mind. The only other thing that I wanted to say about this game is that you know I don't like it when people say like when I'm playing something or watching something that is its own thing, and someone goes, "Oh, yeah, it's really a lot like that other game or that other movie. You really should have played that first because that would make you like really appreciate like this game or whatever." I don't really care for that because it doesn't really matter that much in the long run. And so I'm not gonna say that now, but there are a lot of things in this game that are subtle and not so subtle nods to Near Automata. I I'm not gonna say that it's like a copy. At first, I was like, "Dang, they're just copying Near Automata," and then I was like, "Oh no, they're this is a game that somebody 7 years ago played Near Automata and was like, man, I really like Near Automata." And so they grew up a little bit and went to video game school, and probably a bunch of them started a studio called Shift Up, and they were like, "We're going to make a game like Near Automata," and it does borrow a lot of things from Near Automata. Eve 2B. There's a lot of things about Eve that are similar in ways to 2B. I mean, she has her own dang pod uh, that floats around. For goodness sake, it's there's definitely differences there too, but the way that she kicks boxes open, uh, 2B will kick a box open. I'm sure she wasn't the first one to do that, but like she'll kick a box and it'll open, and then you'll get the prize or whatever. And whenever Stellar Blade or whenever Eve did that for the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, these guys are messing with me. They're not really messing with me, but these guys are going, yeah, we played Near Automata and we liked it. Um, and I don't know, I appreciate that aspect of it, but there's some things with the story that I'm like, okay, I think I know where this is going. Uh, Even more than because I played video games before. Because I played Near Automata, and a lot of these things are sort of one to one. So um, yeah, I just wanted to say that this game has a lot of homages to Automata, for better or worse. And if you haven't had a chance to play that, I'd recommend going to play it. And just I don't know, just like know that whenever you do play, like Joe, whenever you do play Automata, that it'd probably be different enough.
Well, I
But
was playing it and then I stopped for this. So I was just like, yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm totally stopping for this. It's different enough. I think the story is going to be wildly different in a lot of ways. But as because of the way the secondary characters are involved, um, now I think
yeah,
the gameplay for this is much more difficult. It is much more uh, uh,
it's advanced. Yeah, it's
because
definitely, and it's more
Automata is
difficult. Yeah,
a much more simplistic game in comparison. But it's not
yeah,
a bad thing. It still has its own challenge. But I honestly I never found like what I was playing with it, and also with Replicant, which is different. But like still, there was more busy work is the way I felt. Like this is a legit challenge. I feel like I can get wrecked almost at any time. So I'm playing this for a different reason when it comes to that. Um, Now I do when you're mentioning about enemy designs. Yeah, as far as the Alpha Nativas go, they have a very Razafon look to them. It's an older anime that most people don't know. Kind of,
yeah.
it's like a Evangelion adjacent, random boy, giant robot, but like monsters with like stone figure looking faces, wings, stuff like that. So, it's kind of a classic. I really liked it. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of that. Uh, Now some of the monster designs, just the your local grunts, have that organic mixed with stone or metal like machine. So like that's kind of a neat looking enemy design. Graphics overall, at a distance, everything looks really good. Character models are pretty solid, but when you get to like the big city, or you start to don't like look at things with a magnifying lens because you'll notice like textures are just not high quality. And I think
Yeah.
but I mean, if you think about it, Final Fantasy VII had that issue too, where like one of the notorious ones was Cloud's door just never rendered,
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
Or like the
People
garbage,
were
the
in an
floor.
uproar about that door.
Yeah, and then if you look at the floor or the garbage, like it was always low asset quality, and then they finally patched that in like forever later. But like this, so the fact is, this isn't too far from that. I mean, as far as visual effects go, I'm like that. What things that look good look great. Other things, well, from a distance, it looks just fine. And though the one person who irritated the crap out of me, like I know Adam annoyed you, it's that the shop owner from the Sisters Junk shop. Uh, just her voice acting, just and her just character, just I know they're trying to make her like bashful and stuttery, but just listening to her voice grated the crap out of me. I started skipping her dialogue. I just quickly read it and just started, you can boost your affinity level with some of the character shop characters. So I just bought a couple expensive stuff
Oh
just to
yeah.
see what you
So
got. And I'm like
yeah,
listening to
you're
her.
further along than me because like I just got to Zion, and I was doing a little bit of wandering around, but I'd only talked to like one person. I wandered into the piano bar with
Mhm.
the lady singing, the disembodied lady, and I think that's the only people besides Oracle and Man that I've actually had a chance to talk to in depth. So yeah, I just haven't really piddled around in that area much yet. But
Yeah,
okay, so
there's
I'll
a
look
bunch.
out for those people and let you know my
Yeah,
opinion.
she's your main quest, so you have to get the thing for Adam. Um, and so
Okay, yeah.
I got that. Went back to after that. I kind of beelined it back to the ship. There's apparently like a notice board where you have like side missions. I skipped that because I'm like I'll come back to you later. I needed to make sure I could save, and that's what I did. So then I just quickly talked to Lily and I upgraded my drone essentially, and that's kind of where I ended it. So still pretty early on, haven't gotten to explore the wasteland that's coming up that they talked about. That's what the Oracle wanted
Okay.
you to do, and yeah, we'll talk about this more next time. That's for darn sure. And yeah, it's like I said, it's thank you again for getting me an early birthday gift, or else I would have missed out. And yeah, it was totally worth it. I just had it
Oh,
unfortunately had some other birthday and other family stuff come other family member stuff happen in this weekend, so I only got to play for a couple days. Um,
yeah.
but
I'm just
I'm
glad
totally glad.
we're both
Yeah,
about the same. I'm just glad we're both about the same level into it. So that's good, and that the game doesn't suck. That's that's also what I'm very happy about. But
yeah.
yeah, it's good so far. It's about what I expected. So that's good.
All right, and now quickly just dropping down because due to technical difficulties last time, we didn't get to talk about games or anything we were watching. We are let's see. It looks like we got to watch a few things. I finally got around to watching that Barbie movie that came out. I know it sounds weird, the being so late in the game. A lot of people really talked about it, really liked it. Uh, it just was the thing, like I haven't been to the movie theater forever, so I just happened to throw it on the library, like the ultra Blu-ray version. I'm like, yeah, okay, they'll get it to me when they get it to me, and they got it to me. It was all right. It was I see why it got a lot of praise. It was the right kind of stupid in a lot of ways, and also it was like I don't know if you got a chance to see it all.
I did.
Uh,
I did see it.
so like the by the end of the story, I'm like, so are all the Kens homeless? Is that the takeaway? Kens are homeless. They're second class citizens. They obviously stated that much. Uh, she literally said, "I don't know where Ken sleeps," and like they finally got homes. That's all they really wanted. They just wanted. No, like the whole patriarchy thing was hilarious. I thought, like top to bottom, like I said, it did deserve all the good praise it got. Surprisingly enough, the director didn't do a whole lot. Like they did one other movie that I can't remember off the top of my head. That was like I saw the cover. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know that movie. But like there was only like maybe four credits to that director's name, and like one of which was a music video. So yeah, I was just like, all right, that's I didn't expect that. I thought they were maybe been around for a little longer, but I guess not. A lot of
I
writing
mean,
credits for that director though. Like they did a lot of writing.
from like like from a production standpoint, it's a very good movie. Um, it's I think you could say looks great. The coordination, the costumes, all that stuff. It's very good. From a writing standpoint, I think it's also pretty good. Um, I think that it makes a lot of I think it makes a lot of really good points about. I think it makes some pretty good points about modern masculinity um, in some contexts. But I also think that that it's how do I put this? It it is a little bit too hard on the it over magnifies the the plight of the modern woman, I think, uh, which you know that's how they feel about it, I guess, how the writer felt about it. So it is what it is. Uh, that's probably the most that I could really say about it. But I do think that they really um, say, hey, men are kind of bad in this way. Modern men are kind of bad in this way, and that's not a good thing. And I kind of look at it, and I'm like, yeah, you make good point here and there. Maybe not 100%, but I appreciated it for that. I think it definitely deserves to exist. And I think we should probably have more movies like that.
I thought the good
Because
takeaway was the monologue the mom gives at Weird Barbie's house, and like essentially the double standard, the contradictions that come. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much because like a lot of people like they become their own worst enemy in that sense. Um, I was actually surprised to see I can't remember his name. The actor who played was that Shang Chi, the he
oh
plays
yeah, I don't know that
the
guy's name.
rival Ken. It's I don't know, I never knew how to pronounce it. It's like Simu Liu, I think it is.
Oh
um I never knew
yeah,
how to
yeah.
pronounce it because I've never actually heard it. Like I've never seen an interview or anything where they say it. I just know him as the son from um Kim's Convenience, because that's how I
Right.
originally,
Yeah.
you know, but like, his character, like his stuff was pretty stellar. It was the right kind of silly in a lot of ways. They like the set design, the costume design was pretty awesome. Uh, I there has to be a fan theory out there between Will Ferrell and like between the Barbie movie and Lego movie or something, because I
Mhm.
really think there's someone has a timeline or something being like, yeah, he's the
It
same
probably
character,
is.
same universe. um,
Yeah,
but no, it
it
was
probably is.
like I said, I see why it got a lot of praise. Now, like I said, is it the perfect
Got
movie?
snubbed at
No.
the Oscars.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it got snubbed at the Oscars. People were pretty mad about that. I don't think it won almost anything. I think it won like one smaller side award,
I'm
but
curious. I'm curious
people
because
were
like,
not
yeah,
happy
what
about it.
what would have won costume or set? Like, I'm curious like that. Like, what would have won? Like, but I don't remember what came out that year or what was going against. So, the
Oh.
no, it was like I said, it was better late than never. But I haven't sat. This is the first time I sat and watched a movie from front. I had a time to watch from front to back in one sitting. Like it was because anytime in the last handful of years, whenever I had to watch a movie due to kids getting up or just time crunch, like I would only be able to watch like half a movie and then pick up the second half the next day. So I actually like were able to sit down and start the movie, and 2 hours later, plus hours, we finished it. I'm like, wow, I forgot what that felt like. So, but yeah, the no, what that's
And
about it for me though. So like, it looks like you got to watch a couple things actually. So you dropped something in new on the docket there.
yeah, a little surprise there. First thing we're talking about is Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Saw this several weeks ago whenever it came out. This was be, I guess, dang near over a month ago. In March, whenever it came out, and saw it in theaters. Went to Alamo Draft House, got the chicken tenders. Side point that I've probably said before: if you ever go to one of those eating type theaters where they have actual food, like Alamo Draft House, um, pro tip, you want finger food that you don't have to see to be able to grab and eat. So if you get like porridge or I don't know, like some kind of complicated like steak that you have to cut and do all this stuff to, it's not going to work out very well after the lights go down. So just wanted to put that little PSA out there. Anyway, so ate some good food and watched this big dumb movie. Um, it was fun. It was fun. I am enjoying. I enjoyed the previous Godzilla X Kong movie that had some good action, some good fighting, and a kind of and I'd say a pretty good plot, for what it was overall. This one, the action was pretty good, the fighting was pretty good, but I'm not asking for a lot in these plots. Um, and this one was not bad, but it needs a little bit more. Um, the humans in these movies are kind of just there for scale. It's like, this is how big a human is. See how big the Kong is or the Godzilla is, and all this stuff going on. And to kind of relate it to, they're kind of translating it for you, the audience, like, this is why you should care. It's because it's not just animals fighting, it's like, important to humanity. So there actually were some pretty good scenes, especially the I'll call him the dentist. At one point, Kong needs some dental work done, which is kind of interesting in its own way. Um, and they call in a dentist, and that's pretty cool. Um, but uh, the plot was a little bit thin on the human side. I needed a little bit more. The little girl that they have in the movie is just not particularly great. And they had like a mother daughter sort of thing going on that I just didn't feel like hit as well. Um, so I feel like they should probably up the ante a little bit there. But besides that, good action, um, pretty good story. Uh, I think that they are. So you have Godzilla, right? And you have Mothra, right? And you have Kong, right? Who are all in their original forms the bad guy. And now you definitely have Godzilla and Kong being two sides of the good guy coin. They're kind of enemies to each other, but they're kind of working more or less for humanity. Well, we also have Mothra now that has entered the mix and is now a good character.
Mothra's
Sorry,
always been a good
spoilers.
character.
But I thought Mothra was like the enemy of Godzilla.
Godzilla was the bad guy. That like that's like
Always.
the islands like the island Mothra originally came from in the original like monster series. That's why they worshipped Mothra like a god. That's why there was those two little twin like fairies. Best way to explain it, like little literally
I thought
miniature.
that they were both.
They
I
would
thought that it was
pray to
like
Mothra
Godzilla's
and they do the little
bad in the
song and
first
dance and
movie.
Mothra hatches and comes out. Yeah,
So I thought that they were like Godzilla is bad in the first movies, and then oh here's Mothra. Oh Godzilla's going to defend us against Mothra. Is that not? Anyway, it
yeah.
doesn't
It's
matter. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Godzilla's
Other
usually
than
an antagonist in a lot of those early stuff, but it also depends on what era. Where you got Heisei or anyways, it goes. That's a long, deep lore. So they
well,
don't.
in one of the recent Godzilla movies, I'm pretty sure Mothra was the antagonist, and Godzilla had to be used to defeat Mothra. I think that was in the first Godzilla before Kong entered the mix
That was
in
the
this
one
newest
before that
iteration.
was so the last one I watched was the second Godzilla movie of the U.S. franchise, which is they had Godzilla and then
And
with
whatnot.
Bryan Cranston and Ken Watanabe. Ken Watanabe was in the one after that, which was the King of Monsters, and that's when they had 11 from Stranger Things,
Yeah.
and that was
Wasn't Mothra the bad one in that?
no, more or less. There's a whole eco-terrorist subplot. It is just the dumbest thing ever for your human interaction. And that movie is why I stopped watching this new series. And then plus, I also King Kong kind of sucks. It's just how it is. And so yeah, I didn't watch any of the King Kong stuff or the most two recent movies. So I'm assuming Eleven's no longer in it because you're saying a mother daughter relationship. I'm like that is exactly what it is in King of Monsters. Um, Yeah, it's
Yeah, but it's a different mother daughter.
okay.
Yeah,
They wrote
I
them out
think
then. Okay.
11. I think what's her name, Millie Bobby Brown. She think she got too big for this movie. I think she's uh she's too important now to other franchises. But anyway, yeah, okay, so that there's a cult. So you're saying Cult of Mothra. That kind of makes sense for some things that happen in the movie.
Well, it's
Anyway,
yeah. Well, like I said, the original Mothra was worshipped by like these islanders. That's how it was. But no,
okay.
the like I said, the eco terrorists kind of awaken. I forget. I honestly forget too much. But like they essentially they kill Mothra off, and then they have an egg, and that's where it kind of like takes off from.
Oh, anyway, well, okay, so Mothra is a good guy either because they always have been, or now they're a good guy. However, whatever the true interpretation of that is, I leave to the audience. Um, and so you have Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra, and they're making more new enemies and doing some stuff with that. So I don't know. It's just uh, it was good action, but it's getting to the point now where it's like sort of just monsters fighting monsters, and there's not really there's it's a lot of green screen. It's just a lot of it's like I'm not really watching a movie. I'm not really watching a people movie with monsters in it. I'm watching a monster movie with a couple people in it every once in a while who don't really give lines that are that good or that important. But but I don't regret seeing it. It was good. And I'll see the next one. I'll at least see the next one, for sure. Uh, Probably the next two, even if the next one's bad. But but it was all right. It was pretty good. Um, and my buddy that I saw it with, he's the exact opposite of you. Well, I wouldn't say he like hates Godzilla. He likes Godzilla, okay, but he just loves apes, and he loves Kong, and he just like he loves chimps and apes and stuff just in general. I don't know where it came from, but he just really likes that stuff. So he was super into it. He's like, "Hey, you want to go see this?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." So it's been fun uh, to explore that. And then yeah, I do have one more thing, unless you want to talk about Godzilla and Kong some more.
Well, I assume that your buddy loves like every which way, but loose with Clint Eastwood and that chimpanzee. Uh,
He's kind
you,
of young. He's kind of young, so there's a lot
so
of stuff
so
he hasn't
so
seen.
introduce him to that one. It'll blow his mind. He'll probably like think it's the newest thing, and he'll have to have like like Michael Jackson had that little chimp too. So he'll probably need to buy one for himself. And yeah, I don't know. Your friend sounds really different. Uh,
He's kind of he's kind of different, yeah, but it's a cool
Godzilla,
kind of different.
like I said, Godzilla is. I was always a big fan of his. King Kong's always been the weak link. But like since they gave him like I hadn't seen Godzilla versus Kong. And then this newest one, I saw trailers and like they gave him boxing gloves. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I was like, all right.
There's a reason. There's a reason for it.
Yeah. Why
It's
don't they
just a way to sell
just give him a
toys.
shank? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just but
It's just a way to sell toys.
they also made him grow like way bigger than he's supposed to be. Um,
Yeah, yeah, he is a Mega Kong. It's yeah, it's getting it's that somebody explained this to me, and I was like, that does make perfect sense about True Blood. They were like they're like the first season of True Blood is like magical things in the real world, and the by the third or fourth season of True Blood, however many it goes, it's like girl in magical world. And I was like, you're right. And that's where it kind of goes. That's kind of where True Blood went wrong. This, I feel like, has more leeway for that, but it is going in that direction where kind of it's just all monsters and stuff like that. And I feel like it's going to be less grounded in the future, which I'm kind of in for. I'm like, yeah, I want to watch CG monsters punch each other and shoot lasers at each other. Um, but I just I fear that something might be lost in doing that as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought they did. I thought they had the additional monsters decent in King of Monsters. They had Rodan and I think King Ghidra in there one as well. But yeah,
Okay,
it's been years since I've seen it. So no, I will most definitely skip out on the later films, but I will. I'm waiting to pick up Godzilla minus one. That one
dude,
is.
yeah,
I
I kind of
unfortunately
wish I'd gone to see that in theater.
I wish I did too. I just can't. We just didn't have the time for it, which it really bites because that one would have been worth seeing for sure. But all right, what else have
Yeah.
you been watching, man?
So I think last weekend, and I was kind of surprised it's been going on this long. I was on YouTube for some reason, and I was like, I noticed that Adult Swim was having a Space Ghost Coast to Coast marathon in celebration of the 30th anniversary of Space Ghost. And I was like, you know what, I haven't seen in a minute is some Space Ghost. Um, so I clicked on it and I watched a bit of Space Ghost, and I've been watching it whenever I get dressed in the morning. They've just been having it on. I think it's just the first season playing on repeat. And it's because I've been coming in some of the same episodes over and over again, but I'll just have it on while I get dressed and stuff and here and there. And man, that show was really dumb and pretty funny sometimes. I don't know. I just hadn't thought about it in a long time, and I just wanted to mention it. Did you ever get to watch much Space Ghost, or did
I actually
you
didn't like
or did
Space
you ever
Ghost a
see any
lot.
later?
I watched enough of it when it first came out to like certain things about it, but as a whole, um, the parts with Space Ghost is the parts that sucked. The parts with like Brack and Moltar, like those bits were funny. Um,
Dude, are
like
you serious?
the
There's
bit where
some
like
stuff that Space Ghost does.
anytime they did the actual interview like was always garbage, but the I forget the quotable one was like Brack blinking, and then it's like I didn't blink. It's like I heard it, you know, like because every time he blinks, he
There's
literally
so
makes a blinking noise. But yeah,
it's such dumb it's such dumb comedy, and the chat, the YouTube chat actually makes it better because yeah, I'll be watching it and they'll say a line and I'm like that's kind of funny, and then somebody will like repeat the line in chat and I don't know why, but it just I'm like yeah that is funny. And some stuff is I don't know.
see, I think it
It's
was the
just
precursor to like Tim and Eric and stuff like that. It's like that kind of Cartoon Network, like switching gears to that kind of comedy was really hit or miss with me personally. It's one of the things that
yeah.
like you had to be in the right mood, and then it was hilarious. But that's why, as a whole, there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of the side stuff. Moltar doing like the Christmas songs or something like that. Uh, you
Mm.
know, just stupid stuff. Like that was pretty funny. But like I remember
It
like talking to Mark Hamill and just like it was just half an interview. I'm like, yeah, I would actually like to hear them banter or have jokes really put in, but instead it's just
usually it's just mocking the person, but they had some pretty big stars, big stars on there, but like there's one with Charlton Heston, there's one with Bob Costas, Conan O'Brien. I think Conan O'Brien might be the best because Conan O'Brien is up for it. He's like, I know what you guys are doing and I'm here to do it too. There's a lot of stuff that is just so dumb in there, but it informs a lot of. It's like I don't know. It does feel very much like um, kind of Mad TV, late night. uh, you know, kind of drunk, kind of sleep deprived comedy. That's really the only place that really works. But it like watching it feels very millennial to me now. I'm like, dang, this now I understand kind of where a lot of millennial comedy really kind of comes from. And it also makes me sort of see how Gen Z comedy sort of emerged from this. You know, Space Ghost is sort of internet comedy before the internet really had anything uh, comedic, anything more than like teal background with white letter, blogs. But anyway, so
The
I've
answer to
been
your
watching it
question,
here and
Conan
there.
O'Brien, Fire Ants, season 6, episode 7.
Is that the only one he's on?
That was the first one that popped up when I typed in his name, but it's the episode name was Fire Ant.
Yeah, because they do have a fire ant thing in there. Man, there's some stuff. It's so dumb. It's like I want to say it, but it's so dumb it won't come off right. Uh, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So like, there's this part where he's trying to get this blob that's taking over the ship. He's trying to get it to come help them defeat these plants that are also taking over the ship. And so he's talking to the blob. He has the space door open, and he's talking to the blob, and he's like, they're in there talking about your mother. People are laughing. And it's just the way that he says it and like the that it hangs in the air. It's so stupid, but it's so funny at the same time. I don't know, man. I encourage anyone out there who has any passing interest in Space Ghost to stop what they're doing and uh, go watch it right now.
All right. Well, now that this is all fresh in your mind and you're all about the nostalgia trip, then you should go ahead and listen to the Glass Animals, Space Ghost. Great song, and it has all the nostalgia stuff from the late '90s that you could ever want. Also,
Yeah.
watch the official music video. Weird as heck, just completely trippy. Yeah, it's really just mind-bendingly like disturbing in a way. Like yeah, it fits in that era of weird, like the Tim and Eric kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know if you ever had a chance to listen to them, but Glass Animals, they do quite a few good songs. Uh, but yeah, Space Ghost was the breakout one, I think, that really hit mainstream. So yeah, give that a shot. But yeah, you got anything else for us?
I started to watch Fallout. I watched a little over half of the first episode. It is really good. I do want to watch more, and I will. I will go ahead and probably watch all of that as soon as I have a second. But yeah, so I just wanted to apologize to everyone that I haven't watched that, but I will because it is good so
All right,
far.
we'll talk more about that next time then. But all right, well, you guys, thank you very much. This has been another Dead Pixel, episode 74. And Nick, what words of wisdom do you have for everyone out there?
Always get consent before you pull out your stellar blade.
All right. Uh, yep. Once again, be careful of Nick tomorrow because he's a big Star Wars fan and he loves to show everyone his blade. All right. Until next time, y'all, just take it easy.
Bye.